Mission spokesperson of Special Monitoring Mission, Michael Bociurkiw, please. Good afternoon, dear friends.
But I know we have extremely competent translation. There's quite a bit of material here. I thought it would be important to share with you exactly what we're seeing. Allow me, if you will, to first of all go through our log of ceasefire infractions. This is up to 1,800 hours yesterday. And I can tell you it's a fairly long list, but I'll just mention a few. So unless otherwise noted, all the times I mention are from yesterday, February 18th. So in Luhansk sector, near a town called Mirna Dolina, ironically Mirna Dolina, Mir is the Ukrainian word for peace, of course, our monitors heard distant shelling. Yesterday morning in Raihorodka, at least twice, the sound of shelling. Yesterday morning in Bociurkiw, outgoing artillery rounds. Yesterday afternoon in Muratove, outgoing artillery. Moving on to Kramatorsk sector, we, of course, Debaltseve, we heard outgoing and incoming multiple launch rocket systems fire. From Solodar, we heard multiple launch rocket system fire. Yesterday afternoon in Semihiria, we heard outgoing mortar fire. And also in Novoluhansk, we were informed that there's incoming shelling. Moving on to Donetsk sector, in Lizne, we heard 2 explosions consistent with artillery rounds. In Nizhna Krenka, we heard the sounds of explosions consistent with outgoing artillery fire. In Donetsk, we heard 8 single outgoing artillery rounds. Hodlivka, artillery fire was heard. Again, Donetsk, artillery fire, and in Yasinuvata, we observed outgoing Grad missile. And finally, Mariupol. So throughout, mostly throughout the day yesterday, in Shirokino. Now this is 20 kilometers east from our position of Mariupol. Lots of instances of mortar shelling. Now, by the way, we today, as in the past 3 or 4 days, we've had altogether 20 patrols active in the security zone. And I wanted to remind you that it's a fairly large area, bigger than the size of the country of Switzerland. The next thing I wanted briefly to draw your attention to the statement made the other day by the Chief Monitor, Ambassador Apakan, and regarding the situation in Debaltseve, Ambassador Apakan said he was profoundly disturbed by reports of what is going on there. He expressed his concern about the civilian population that remains in the city and reminded all sides that they have a duty to the civilian population as well. Ambassador Apakan minced no words when he referred to the rebel groups, saying that he condemned any attempts to create new facts on the ground and so to change the basis on which the latest package of Minsk measures were agreed on. And he also insisted that rebel groups immediately cease the offensive. Now, of course, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine stands more ready than ever to monitor the implementation of the ceasefire. We're very well positioned to do this. We have plenty of experience among all of the monitors. We have familiarity with the lay of the land almost after a year of being here. We have familiarity and contacts with the key interlocutors. Now, at the moment, we have a total of 432 monitors in Ukraine, 432. And of those, about 350 are in the east of Ukraine. And I also wanted to tell you that about half, if not more, are military or former military, hence very, very good observation skills. We also wanted to reiterate that the ceasefire has to be unconditional. There's no exceptions. And as far as the special monitoring mission is concerned, we expect unfettered and safe and secure access. Now, in terms of Bociurkiw, we were not able to go there yesterday. We received in writing from the rebel groups that they were unable to provide security guarantees. This is pretty much the equivalent of not granting us access, because as an unarmed civilian mission, we cannot send our monitors into a location where it's so dangerous. Hence, I know there may be questions about what's going on in Bociurkiw, but we cannot comment much on the situation there, because as you know by now, we only say what we actually see with our own eyes. However, having said that, our Deputy Chief Monitor, Alexander Hug, was in Soledar, north of Bociurkiw, for yesterday and the day before, meeting with the JCCC there. And at that time, he also encouraged, from asking for safe access, he encouraged each side to confirm that they were willing and able to cease fire. However, the DPR and the LPR were not willing to do so. Again, I remind you that as of yesterday, we believe the case to be the same today, is that there are many innocent civilians trapped in Bociurkiw who have been living in very, very dire conditions indeed. In regard to anyone who, any of the actors, we wanted to say that the Minsk documents are not a shopping list. It's one integrated whole. And also that, again, our access needs to be unconditional and comprehensive. The ceasefire, which forms the basis for the broader implementation of the Minsk documents, according to the SMM, has been largely holding, but there are notable exceptions, and I read you some of those exceptions in the list. And also very important, like the September document, like the document that was agreed to just recently, one of the key provisions or cornerstones are withdrawal of heavy weaponry. I can tell you that we have not, I repeat, have not observed the withdrawal of heavy weaponry. However, we have observed and reported on the movement of heavy weaponry. Okay, and you know, it's very important also for us to remind everyone, all the sides, the international community, about the humanitarian predicament in many pockets throughout the conflict zone. Now, as I indicated, there are areas which are now calm, which we have now been able to access, which we haven't been able to access for quite some time because of the security situation. I can tell by reading our colleagues' report from the first time they accessed the area around Donetsk airport for the first time. It's quite an eye-opener when you read it. What we found there was that residents in the area told us that they have had no water or electricity supply for the past 2 months, and of course we saw considerable damage from shelling and fighting in the area. Again, being able to move around in some spots which have now become safer, I wanted also to reference the town of Krasnohorovka. This is 21 kilometers west of Donetsk. And there, the monitoring mission saw a severe humanitarian situation affecting the city. The city has been without electricity and gas for 12 days because of damage caused by shelling. There is no heating, and as many of you know who are here, have been here for quite some, nighttime temperatures now in Ukraine are dipping well below zero at night. Also in Krasnohorovka, all 5 schools in the city have been affected by the shelling. And the mayor told us that the only hospital in the city has not been functional for 2 weeks. Also, in another residential area, Vostochnoye, the humanitarian situation there we can describe as particularly desperate. A elderly woman living in a shelter there told us that 5 families have been living in a shelter for 8 months. 8 months. One more locality that I wanted to flag about the humanitarian situation is Kominternovo. This is 88 kilometers south of Donetsk. There we saw severe damage to the school and village administration buildings. Going back just quickly to the Minsk documents, I just wanted to read a couple of lines in Ukrainian, if I can.
We are expecting the safe and secure access. This is very important. For the Baltsova, we received in writing that security guarantees are not in place. This is equivalent to not granting us access. Minsk agreements is the only document, and it cannot be implemented only partially. It's this one single document.
I wanted to remind you that anything else of substance that we see that has to come out quickly, our Twitter feed is very active, the Facebook page, and over the next days, if there's a need, we'll be coming out with more media briefings, and I suspect that we'll also be coming out with more press statements over the next few days.
Sounds
Nick.
Mike.
Sorry.
Nick Shitko was the Wall Street Journal. Hi, Mike. About access. So, based on what you said and based on your previous reports, I believe I've seen also some that you guys had some issues with accessing different other areas besides the Baltsova. So maybe you could compare these access problems in general in the last couple of weeks or since the new ceasefire. Was it better or worse compared to previous months, to January, say? So do you see any additional restrictions? And another question related to that, in terms of UAVs, so are you using them? Why can't you monitor, say, the Baltsova area with UAVs or other areas where you don't have direct access on the ground? Thank you.
Your questions are always good. Okay, so the second question first. So we started off with 4 UAVs. We have now 2 that remain operational. One, as you may recall, some weeks ago had a crash to the ground. It's beyond repair. A second one has damage from live fire, so it's not flying. So 2 are operational, and I can't give. I'm sorry. They're based near the city of Mariupol. They're manufactured by a company in Austria called Schiebel. And I can tell you, I don't want to give too much away right now, but we're looking very carefully at where our unmanned aerial vehicles are based, and you could see some movement in that regard. In regard to your question about access, I think it's fair to say we're still in the early days of the new agreement, and I wouldn't want to commit myself to identifying a trend just yet. However, as Ambassador Apakan said the other day, we are accessing areas for the first time, which are hotspots that were previously inaccessible. And I can also tell you that Novozovsk, this is to the east of Mariupol, we have not. When it remains the case, we have not been able to access that area. Again, I will repeat, is that we require two things to do our job. One is unrestricted access, and the other is safe and secure access, and we expect all parties to abide by that.
Чи є ще запитання?
Any other questions?
From ARD German TV. So first question is on the attempts of Ukrainian authorities, which they say they want to address UN to have this peacekeeping mission or European Union police mission. So the question is, does this mean that they think it's not enough of OSCE to control such a big area? That's the first thing. And are you preparing to work together, and do you plan to work together with such a peacekeeping mission?
Okay. In terms of the reasons for requesting that, I will refer you to the Ukrainian authorities. But I can tell you that in our mandate, it's clearly spelled out there that we're to work, cooperate with many different parties, for example, the United Nations, ICRC. So in terms of possible peacekeeping force, of course, we'll be prepared to work with them, to cooperate with them. But, you know, let's be clear, is that, again, we are an unarmed civilian mission. And I will tell you that, you know, it's fairly clear that in doing the job that we're tasked to do, we do assume some risk. There have been times where our monitors have come very close to live fire, but on the other hand, I think we can credit this to the intensive training that is done, to the armored vehicles, and by the way, we've asked for some more armored vehicles because we are increasing our numbers in the east, personal protection equipment, and just the wisdom and the common sense of our monitors, and believe me, many of them have worked previously in conflict zones. That has all, I think, come together to keep them safe throughout the mission. And by the way, as well as very, very frequent security assessments too.
Hello, I'm Justin from the Finnish Broadcasting Company. I just yesterday came back from Donetsk, and I have a question about your information policy, because as I know, as the people working for OSCE has told me, they are not allowed to say anything to journalists, just like that. But still, in my Twitter feed, got a lot of comments which were said to be made by OSCE officials or members in your mission. How do you comment on that?
Okay. By the way, we have 19 monitors currently from Finland. I can tell you that we take very seriously our mission's mandate, as well as our mandate to be impartial. And so everything we say, we go through carefully, of course. But in terms of, I can tell you that I'm a former journalist, and you know, of course, I'm constantly updating along with colleagues of the media policy. So we don't have a blanket policy of not speaking to media. What we have done actually is we're currently increasing the number of people who are authorized to speak to the media. We now have 2 international media focal points in the field. There's more to come. I hope to get down to Donetsk soon because there's a concentration of journalists. But I think you know, we do training with our monitors, and we encourage them to be when they can open with the press. But really, when it comes to, I think you can get the idea, sensitivity of some statements that comes through the designated spokespeople, and you know, the number of interviews and press conferences that we've given is significant, not only by myself, but by the chief monitor, the deputy chief monitor, and you will see us being out there more in smaller centers as well, reaching out to local and to regional press. We are also, I can tell you, we realize the frustrations of Ukrainian journalists in terms of accessing the areas that are under control by rebel groups, and you'll recall that during the MH17 disaster, we gave live briefings here via telephone to the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. So we hope to actually use more technology to bring news from that theater of operation, that difficult to access theater of operation to the media. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Mike, for information. Next briefing will be on next Thursday. Колеги, наступний наш брифінг за 2 хвилини.
Our next briefing will take place in 2 minutes.